So this is the presentation that we've tried to, we put together to talk. An earlier version was with the chamber, used most of this version with the joint city-county school district, and it'll be the one that we'll present to the board on Tuesday about the override, that the general public has an understanding of what the board is attempting to do. Okay, what I want to talk about first is our educational revenue support. This is where we get the money that makes up the basic operation of the school district. It does not include federal funds or grants of any type that we might have gotten from outside agencies. But we're going to take a look at from 2008, FY 2008 through FY 2014. That is this current school year, the 13-14 school year that we're in. We'll look at the M&O account, the maintenance and operation, the classroom site fund, which is the 301 fund. It's the property, it's the sales tax of 0.6%, and that money is dedicated to teacher salary enhancement. Instructional improvement, that's the gaming revenue fund that we get from the casinos. Soft capital is a fund that we get, or used to get, from the state. It's a combination of state funds and property tax, as well as the capital fund. We have some capital overrides that we've had, and then we have the fund that we're talking about that the board put on the election, and that's the M&O override. Okay, the basic maintenance operation fund, that's our basic support amount that we receive from the comes from the legislature. It is the state funding, basic funding support formula that we have. It's a minimum funding formula that says this is where the state will support to, and then it is paid for by the state general fund as well as the local property tax. It's a share between the property owner and the state to provide the basic support. The current number is $33.68 and 12 cents. Okay, and so what the state says is you have to levy at a certain rate, and then whatever you get, we will make up from what you generate from your local taxes to make the $33.68. They make up the difference. So if we're a very wealthy school district, they may not give us anything. If we're a property tax poor school district, they will give us more money. So it's a basic, it's trying to equalize education across the state. Then maintenance and operation. What we have, we can spend that on salaries, benefits, supplies, equipment, purchase services, and utilities. Those are the basic things that you do. The blue is the amount of money that we get from that fund, the M&O, the basic support fund that we showed you. We can then also transfer in money from capital. The state permits that. The capital fund is also a combination of state and local support. So you can see that the blue is that in '08 we received about $176 million. In '09 it went up to almost $180 million, and it's bounced around on that time. So this goes up and down depending upon how much money the legislature has. It is not a scientific formula or anything like that that says this is absolutely what you have to have. It's really based on this is what they're able to generate or money, and then they tell us what the tax has to be. We can, if we do not spend all of our money in the blue, we can move that and carry it over to the next year, and there's a limit of 4% that we can carry over, and that's what the BBC, it's the budget carryover money. Classroom site fund, again, cannot be used to prevent cuts. The only thing that we can do with that is use it to enhance teacher salaries. And that is in two parts. One is directly to the salary, and the other is a performance pay. And the DOC committee that you hear about, that's the one that determines how that performance pay will be distributed. And it's a 0.6% of sales tax. So looking in '08, you can see that the district got a little over $18 million for that, and it's dropped down, and now it's about $10 million, just a little bit over, about $10.5 million that we receive on that. Now, the way the district used that here, the state tells us how much we have. The district's been very smart, and that Clyde would not let that money go and figure we'll do that. He waited until we get the cash. And because they may tell us you're going to get $20 million and only 10 shows up. So we only allocate out the 10 because that's money in the bank. Otherwise, you're going into your M&O, and then it stops what you can do other places. So the district has made a really wise decision that way. Okay, instructional improvement, again, that's the gaming money. We can use that, the class size reduction, teacher compensations. We use that, for example, if we get more kids than we expected, that's how we can afford to hire a teacher, because if we didn't have them budgeted in the M&O, we can use this money to do that. Dropout prevention programs, we can do it. We can do it for curriculum development to help put in the Common Core or change and use it in a textbook adoption process. It's not a stable front, so you can see in '08 we got about $2.5 million. Today we're getting about approximately $850,000. Quite a bit of drop, okay? And that varies again with the economy. So you can see what begins to happen there, that fund, we've got a lot of latitude in the use of that and running the district, but again, it's now a small fund compared to what it used to be. Soft capital, that's a capital needs fund. Helps us buy textbooks, library books, school buses. That doesn't sound too soft if you got hit by one, but it is, it's anything really a capital item other than building and modifications and stuff like that. We could do that. Now you see in 2014, there is no fund there. And what the state did is move that and the capital fund as the one fund. So that's where the dollars are. But again, you can see in 2008, 2009, we were getting about $8.5 million in capital, and it dropped off to $2 million range, and then the last 2 years, 12 and 13, it was less than $2 million a year we were receiving there. And the state did that because, again, it didn't have funds. So you'll see that the big drop happened there, and they tried to keep the M&O up that you can run the basic system. It'd be no different than what we would have done, the same thing. We would take capital, and since you're allowed to, and try to spend it to keep the regular education program going and not make cuts in the classroom and the people that are working within the program. You try to protect those as best you can. You can't do it forever, though, because you've got to repair your roofs, you've got to buy your textbooks and things like that. So it's a balancing act, but you can see what the state did and then how we followed suit on some of that. Capital, that's what we buy land with, that's what we build buildings with, that's equipment that we buy. It's allowed to be transferred into the M&O. The school facility boards recommends that we have on hand $6.3 million this fiscal year, and it's a little bit more next fiscal year, on hand in the capital fund, which we don't have. And you can see from the state, we never even got that much in the past. And so that's a recommendation, which you can't meet, but that's the number they give us. And so you can see then we got up in 12, we had a high of a little over $3 million. In FY13, a lot of that money was transferred over into the M&O account to protect the district. Okay? We've kept a little bit more this year. Part of it is because we have a textbook adoption that we have to be paying for. Okay? We have we had two override funds. The first one, override, went until 2013. It was $1.8 million that we had for equipment to equip our schools and furniture and that. Then in 2009, voted for in November of 2008, July 1 of 2009, the technology override went into effect. It was for $8.2 million. $7 million of it was for technology, 1.2 was for things like chairs, supplies, those kind of equipment items that we were able to buy. You can see that the first override stopped in 2013, dropped off, that's the dark purple color, and then the light blue is the current override. That override expires in 2015, FY 2015. So unless it is renewed, it will expire June 30th, 2015, which means that the board, if it chooses to do so, will have to go for a technology override in 2014, in November of 14, if you want to continue all or some of the override. And they haven't even dealt with that decision yet. But that is one that's also before us in the school district. And just now to stack up all of these, you can see then that our budget ran on the M&O and those supporting funds. The height was in 2009, where we were about $248 million, and down to where we are today. Now, we're going to blow that up and just show you a little bit more how it works. Remember, the bottom line, the blue, is the M&O, the basic support, and that's running in the 170 to almost $180 million range. You can see the yellow, which is the override. The current override, the one passed for 2008, was for 10%, and you can see that. That's 10% of the basic support. So the 3368, we get 10% of that in the override. Okay? And we did that up until and including the 2013 school year. Then the override begins to drop off, and so it dropped from 10% down to 6.6%, or a 33% drop, or a 3.3% drop from $17 million to down to around $11.6 million. So that's what happened. And so the board now, this is the override that the board has put on the ballot for 6.6%. We still have the capital override. You can see the capital override. The first one was here, the dark blue, and you can see it went away, and all we're left is with the merging of the capital fund, both the soft and the hard capital that we get from the state. And you can see the size of that, how that's changed over the years. Then the next one is the light blue above. That's the technology override. And then the CSF, that's the classroom site fund. That's this big one here. And that was running, you saw the different ranges there till about, currently it's about $10 million. The little green then, that's the amount that you get from the gambling fund. And you can see that's gone from about $2.5 million down to the $850,000. Okay, maintenance and operation override, that's the one we're talking about that the board is present. The board, a school board, is allowed to go up to 15% increase above the minimum basic support amount. That's the largest they're allowed to do for an override. It was created by the state to allow local communities the opportunity to provide greater support for it. It doesn't mean that you couldn't stay within your budget. It enables the community to say, hey, we want something better than what is the state minimum support for the kids. It's funded totally by local property tax. No state dollars go into it. And the Gilbert board is requesting right now, their motion was for 6.6%. Okay? The override, the current override, phased down 1/3 this year, and so it's $11.6 million. Next year, if an override, we do not have an override, it drops to 5.8 million and completely is eliminated in 2016. So you can see the yellow here, okay, and you can see the drop from here to here. That was a decrease of about $5.8 million in our current year. If we do not pass an override, the board, it'll be this and this in 2016. If it passes, it'll be basically a straight line. This is what you would have, and it's 97. It'll cost approximately $97.37 on a median price home. This is our funding per pupil. You can see that where it's gone up and down a little bit. Its height was in 2009. We were just under $6,200 a student. We're now down to about 5890 or something like that. So that's approximately what's happened to 2013. We haven't done the 2014 because we haven't gotten all our revenue figures at this point. Okay, total staff reductions. This is head count within this, and this, you guys have lived through this and seen this. We've gone from 5,400 down to about just under 4,600 people. Now, that's head count, not FTE. That's a combination of classified and certified teachers. The bulk of the greatest number was in the classified, that the reductions since 2009 has taken place. So that just gives you an idea of has the district done things to try to live within the means and that? Yes, the answer is yes, and you guys have obviously felt it too. Our enrollment during this time has dropped also. And most of that decline, it's about 400 kids, has been in the elementary. So we needed to shrink because we were having less kids. But the main problem of the shrinking related to the revenues that were coming in over these time periods and the effect of the effect of the recession upon what the state was able to do and what people were willing to do locally. Okay, now these are examples of possible areas where reduction would need to occur without the passage of the 6.6. You've got to look that if this goes down, we're going to at least 5.8 would have to reduce. If it didn't, and they didn't have another one, you're looking at $11.6 million over the total time period. But just to give you an idea of what it takes to run the district, this next slide shows that where we spent our dollars last year, the FY13 school year. It demonstrates that we are truly a people business. We work with students, but it's the people that deliver the services to the children. You can see that 86% of our budget is dedicated to people. That's your teachers, your administrators, your support staff, your ground crews, your bus drivers, all of these, all the people working for the district. The cost associated with each individual person is included in that $196 million, or 86% of the budget. The next is non-labor costs. This is 12% of the budget. These are items such as purchase services, fuel for buses, electricity to keep the school running, heat, air conditioning, items like that. And the third area that we spend our bulk of our dollars in is the capital, which is your repair and maintenance of buildings, your additions if you're making those, and that accounts for $5 million of our total budget, or 2% of the overall budget. I'm taking the gross amount that we spent in each area just to show you what you have. Supplies and materials out in the schools, we spend a total of $1.7 million. Total. Okay? And you can see at the elementary, junior high, and high school what's in there. Fuel, to run the buses, we spend about $1 million. We don't have that, well, then you really don't have buses, transportation, and everything else that goes along with it. Total district administration, that's all administrators that are not school-based administrators. So that's Clyde, that's Teddy, that's Barbara, that's Jeff, that's the coordinators, the directors. It's everybody but the superintendent. Okay, we didn't put him in there. So, but anyway, if we wiped everybody out, that's 2.5 million. So you take those two together, and you're still within the at almost $4 million. So you're still not at the first level. Now, obviously, you can't run a district like that, so you're going to have to look at things and your priorities. Equipment, we spend about $1 million. Software licensing and computers, that's, like your Microsoft Word and all of that kind of stuff that we have. We spend $2.7 million. That's not outside of the technology. So this becomes an issue there. Building maintenance, $2.4 million to keep the roofs, the air conditioners working, things like that. Electricity, we can make up that first drop with $6.6 million. We would have no electricity. That means no air conditioning, no lights. This would be in total darkness, and you wouldn't be able to see this slide presentation. So those are the things. So obviously, you're not going to go, we're going to get a lot out of there. So those are some of the areas that you have. Just other examples, class size. Eventually, everything in a school district runs based on class size. That's where the bulk of our expenses are, and that's where they should be. But there we have to add a child or take a child out of the classroom, it will cost us $1.2 million or save $1.2 million. So to get close, if you put 4 kids in the classroom, you would be at $4.8 million savings. But our class sizes would go from high school of 32 up to 36 on the average. So there'll be some much higher than that, a few lower. Principals would have to be looking at how they could staff the buildings, and you couldn't run low class sizes. Probably the lowest you'd run would be somewhere between 20 and 25, and then so anything that's smaller than that, you would have to eliminate those courses. So that's some of the things. If we made bigger classes, we don't know, you may need less schools. An elementary or a middle, junior high school, the operation cost of an elementary is $400,000. That's your principal, the secretary, the custodian, those types of auxiliary personnel that are there. So that's what you would save if you close that. Does not count the electricity and that. We didn't figure that. But just to give you an idea where we would be in staffing. If you do that kind of arrangement, we probably end up having to look at boundaries, and we should be looking at them more often than we do here to keep them more in balance. But that would be one. People say, well, you can do without music. Well, our instrumental music program in the elementary, that's your band and strings program, we spend $755,000 for the staffing on that. So it's not, again, it's not something that's going to take care of the problem. Okay, other areas. And again, these are some that we've just pulled. If you eliminated all counselors, you save $2 million. You get rid of all nurses, you save 1.3. Obviously, you can't do that because we have to have nurses for special ed students and all the other issues you have. So these become the juggling act that you have. Social workers, 585. Security, we spend 600,000 on. Night security, 80,000. Librarians, 2 million. So just take everything there, and you haven't gotten the 5 million. So you begin to see the issues that the district will face.